Imagine walking into a room and realizing that before you say a single word, before you even take a seat, you are already being judged. Every flicker of your eyes, every pause in your step, every hesitation in your voice is being unconsciously analyzed by those around you. People are reading you without realizing it, and most of the time they are driven by their own fears, insecurities, or desires. Now here is the paradox. While most individuals do this passively, Niccolo Machiavelli turned it into a deliberate science. For him, power did not rest merely in speech, persuasion, or even action. It resided in perception, in the razor-sharp ability to read others faster than they could read you. His philosophy was chillingly clear. To protect yourself, you must anticipate. To manipulate someone, you must understand. To dominate, you must see through them before they even realize their mask has slipped. This was not guesswork. Machiavelli constructed psychological tactics, 14 to be exact, that allowed him to cut through performances, strip away illusions, and expose the hidden architecture of human behavior. Consider his first insight. Ignore how a person treats you, and instead watch how they treat those they believe are powerless. Their conduct toward the waiter, the intern, or the person with no apparent influence is the truest window into their nature. The reason is simple: kindness toward equals is often a performance motivated by gain, but behavior toward those deemed insignificant is unguarded. Machiavelli argued that respect for the powerless is the most reliable predictor of character, because it cannot easily be faked. The second tactic follows a similar principle of stripping away masks: silence. Insecurity thrives in noise because words fill the gaps that people fear will expose them. When you deliberately withhold speech, you create a vacuum. That silence becomes a pressure chamber, forcing the other person to fill it, often with unnecessary disclosures. They begin to over-explain, overshare, or reveal insecurities they would normally keep hidden. To Machiavelli, silence was not absence but strategy. It was a tool to compel others to show you their raw motives. His third tactic was even colder: offer nothing. Withhold approval, affection, or advantage, and simply present yourself as detached. Why? Because people often calibrate their behavior according to what they can extract from you. When you give them nothing, you see their default programming. Do they withdraw? It means their warmth was transactional. Do they try harder? That signals deep insecurity and a craving for validation. Do they remain composed? Then you are facing someone with self-control and perhaps a more formidable player. The less you give, the more they reveal. This leads to the fourth tactic: interrupt the pattern. Many individuals operate with rehearsed scripts, well-polished manners, calculated charm, even staged vulnerability. Machiavelli understood that these polished surfaces were barriers to truth. To cut through, you must disrupt the performance. Ask an unexpected question. Pause after a rehearsed joke, or respond to flattery with skepticism. The stumble that follows is not random. It is the moment when the mask slips, revealing the unedited self beneath. Finally, his fifth tactic strikes at the core of loyalty. Instead of waiting for betrayal to test devotion, create a small denial. Refuse a minor request, withhold a favor, or step back from attention they expect. Observe the reaction carefully. Do they remain respectful, or do they gossip, withdraw, or criticize? True loyalty is not proven when people are rewarded. It is revealed when they are denied. For Machiavelli, the smallest no often exposes the largest truth. The sixth tactic sharpens our awareness of what truly drives people's attention. Words can be deceptive, carefully chosen to mislead or impress. But attention is a currency that is never spent unconsciously. Machiavelli insisted that to know someone's priorities, you must observe not what they say, but what they notice. If their eyes constantly drift toward the powerful, they are status seekers. If they ignore those of lower status, they view human worth purely in terms of advantage. If they glance at their phone while speaking to you, you are not their priority, but a placeholder. And if they mimic your expressions, they are subtly seeking your approval. For Machiavelli, attention was more than focus. It was investment, a silent ledger of values that cannot be falsified. The seventh tactic is equally surgical. Introduce a weakness, but one you have fabricated. Confess to something harmless but plausible, perhaps saying you overthink, or that you are too trusting. Then watch carefully. Do they exploit this supposed vulnerability later, mocking or weaponizing it against you? If so, you are dealing with an opportunist. Do they ignore it? They may be respectful or cautious. Do they respond by revealing one of their own flaws? Then they are signaling trust and a desire for connection. By planting a fictional weakness, you create a safe diagnostic tool, a way to observe how they handle vulnerability without risking genuine harm. The eighth tactic is time itself. Delay, postpone, make them wait. Entitlement cannot withstand patience. The person who demands instant responses is the one most likely to fracture when circumstances do not bend in their favor. By responding late, by being vague in scheduling, or by delivering more slowly than expected, you test whether their respect is conditional. Entitled individuals panic, guilt trip, or grow passive-aggressive, while resilient people adapt and remain steady. For Machiavelli, patience was not merely a virtue, it was a weapon that exposed character. The ninth tactic takes us into the realm of imitation. People always copy someone, whether consciously or unconsciously, and in their imitation you discover ambition. If they mirror the powerful, their desire is control. If they mimic the popular, their hunger is for attention. If they emulate the virtuous, they crave moral superiority. The person they imitate is the person they aspire to become, and once you decode their idol, you understand the architecture of their desires. The 10th tactic exploits one of the most dangerous signals of all: envy. Mention a success, a recognition, or an opportunity, and then watch the face. Is the smile too tight, the eyes too fleeting? The response too quick to redirect? Envy flickers in micro-expressions before words can conceal it. And Machiavelli believed envy was more dangerous than hatred because it is quieter and more enduring. Envy always precedes sabotage, and once detected, it cannot be ignored. The 11th tactic exposes hidden mirrors within the human psyche. Ask someone what they hate. Unlike love, which is easy to fabricate, hatred reveals suppressed truths. When someone insists they despise arrogance, it is often because they secretly wrestle with arrogance themselves. Those who condemn dishonesty often practice deception skillfully. Those who denounce weakness often live in fear of being seen as weak. Hatred is rarely objective. It is projection. For Machiavelli, to listen to judgment was to hear confession. The 12th tactic demands an almost clinical precision. Observe what makes someone break eye contact. Direct gaze is an assertion of presence, but the moment it falters, the truth surfaces. Mention money status, shame past failures, or hidden power dynamics, and track their eyes. The sudden twitch, the shift, the downward glance, these micro-reactions reveal suppressed anxieties more clearly than words ever could. Machiavelli recognized that eyes are not just the windows to the soul, as poets claimed, but the exit points of suppressed emotions. What people cannot admit in language will escape through their gaze. The 13th tactic escalates from observation to manipulation. Become the mirror. People are addicted to their own reflection, not just physically, but psychologically. By subtly mirroring posture, tone, or vocabulary, you trigger unconscious recognition. What happens next exposes their inner wiring. Mirror their casual tone and they may intensify attempting to dominate. Mirror their confidence and they may retreat unsure how to manage the challenge. Mirror their insecurity and they may suddenly compensate with superiority or mockery. This tactic is more than mimicry. It is a stress test of authenticity. The more someone shifts when they see their own energy reflected, the more they were performing in the first place. The 14th tactic completes the cycle with elegance, disarm through respect before striking with precision. People expect judgment and prepare armor against it. They come equipped with excuses, filters, and defenses. But when you begin with admiration, when you acknowledge intelligence, validate achievement, or highlight competence, you lower the drawbridge of their defenses. In that moment of safety, you pose the surgical question: what fear lies behind your choices? When did you first learn to fake confidence? How do you know when someone is reading you? Respect opens the door, but the incisive question rips the mask away. People confess most easily when they believe they are admired. With these 14 tactics, Machiavelli did not merely observe human nature, he engineered conditions that forced truth to surface. Yet to stop here is to mistake perception for mastery. For Machiavelli, psychological reading was never an end in itself. It was a strategic tool, a form of silent warfare. Every weakness revealed, every insecurity exposed, every hidden drive uncovered. These were not observations to be filed away, but leverage to be used. He treated people as terrain landscapes of ambition, fear, vanity, and desire. And like a skilled general, he mapped them, not for curiosity, but for advantage. If someone feared abandonment, distance became a weapon. If they craved admiration, withholding approval made them chase his respect. If they thrived on control, unpredictability destabilized them. And if they carried hidden malice behind charm, then knowing their weak point meant he could decide whether to neutralize or let them collapse under their own deception. This transformation from passive reading to active strategy was the heart of Machiavellian intelligence. To see people clearly was power. To use that clarity was dominance. The next dimension of Machiavelli's approach was categorization, a method of silently classifying personalities into strategic archetypes without ever naming them aloud. He understood that labels voiced in conversation provoke resistance, but labels kept in the mind give you control. Consider the masked pleaser, the individual who appears endlessly agreeable and cooperative. Their craving for approval makes them easy to guide with praise. Yet when denied it, they can quickly transform into resentful adversaries. Or the silent climber who plays the role of loyal subordinate while carefully scanning for power vacuums, waiting for the moment to ascend. Such figures must be respected, but never trusted in proximity. Then there is the fragile genius, brilliant, but volatile, whose insights can be invaluable, yet whose instability requires constant emotional management. Another archetype is the loud defender, the one who over-explains, overreacts, and justifies too much. This is nearly always a mask for guilt or insecurity. Machiavelli's brilliance lay not in exposing these roles publicly, but in treating them as silent maps of behavior, actionable blueprints to guide strategy. He would never say you are a narcissist or you are insecure. Instead, he acted in ways that exploited or neutralized these tendencies, while leaving the person unaware they had been profiled. For him, secrecy was not only protection, but amplification of power. One of his favorite diagnostic tools was the word no. Denial, he argued, reveals character more reliably than success ever could. Grant people what they desire, and they will smile, but block them, even in a minor way, and the facade fractures. Do they remain composed? You are dealing with discipline. Do they lash out or subtly undermine ego rules their actions? Do they shift entirely in tone, dropping the mask, then you know the performance was a fragile cover. Rejection exposes emotional baselines more effectively than reward. Equally revealing is the question of performance. Who is this person trying to impress? People rarely speak in a vacuum. Every remark is angled toward an audience, whether present or imagined. If they perform for you, they seek your validation. If they perform for the group, they are vying for dominance. If their words seem aimed at someone absent, you have discovered their hidden loyalty. Watch the eyes. Who do they glance at for approval? Who do they check before laughing? Every gesture, every phrase is not merely expression, but strategy. When you understand the target of their performance, you uncover where their true allegiance lies. Machiavelli also warned to beware of excessive declarations. When people loudly boast of equality, "I am brutally honest," "I hate drama," or "I always put others first," it is often camouflage. The overemphasis on one virtue usually conceals the shadow opposite. The self-proclaimed honest often manipulate truth. The so-called drama-free attract chaos. The selfless may harbor deep resentment or control impulses. True strength requires no advertisement. When virtue screams too loudly, investigate the silence behind it. At the highest level of psychological mastery, Machiavelli insisted that reading others was only half the equation. The greater skill was deciding how to use what you saw without ever exposing that you had seen it. To know a secret is one form of power, but to act on it invisibly is another order of influence entirely. Most people attempt persuasion directly using arguments, sincerity, or appeals to logic. Machiavelli dismissed such methods as naive. He understood that people resist when they feel pressured, but comply when they believe the decision was their own. Thus, the first step is reflection. Mirror their desire before redirecting it. If they seek recognition, you acknowledge it while quietly tying it to your objectives. If they crave influence, you show them that supporting your plan increases their visibility. In this way, you never fight their desire. You hijack it. The second step is controlled vulnerability. People disclose most when they feel superior, helpful, or trusted. By revealing a minor flaw, perhaps claiming to overthink or to be overly absorbed in work, you engineer an imbalance that draws them in. They feel stronger, wiser, or more generous. And in this false intimacy, they release truths they would normally guard. Machiavelli treated this not as deception, but as calibration, a way of opening doors that would otherwise remain closed. The third step is partial confession. People trust most when they believe trust is reciprocated. By offering a half-truth or a carefully crafted anecdote about betrayal or struggle, you create the illusion of equality. They see themselves in your words and, relieved, disclose their own vulnerabilities in full. You sacrifice a pawn to capture the queen. The fourth step is self-definition. Instead of labeling someone, let them define themselves. When they tell you they value loyalty, efficiency, or independence, they are handing you the very script of their identity. Later, you can frame requests or challenges in alignment with these values, ensuring compliance while allowing them to feel authentic. They do not resist because they believe they are being true to themselves. The fifth step is reputation engineering. By attributing to someone a quality they have not yet proven, you are known for fairness, or people admire your discipline. You create a reputation they feel compelled to uphold. Fear of losing face binds them to a role you have constructed. They act in accordance with your narrative, not because you force them, but because they fear being exposed as inconsistent. Finally, Machiavelli mastered the art of indirect influence. Sometimes you do not need to persuade directly. You only need to let others overhear the right fragment. A remark about your high standards, a story of strategic success, or even a casual hint of vigilance can recalibrate their perception. They adjust their behavior around you, believing they discovered this truth themselves. And when people believe they know who you are, they stop questioning, which makes them predictable. In all of this lies the true danger. and the true genius. Once you can read people with precision, the temptation arises to detach, to manipulate for sport, to treat life as a game of masks. Machiavelli himself warned of this shadow. The ultimate power is not endless manipulation, but knowing when to step back, when to disappear, when to win, without crushing. At the pinnacle, perception becomes instinct. You walk into a room, and information flows. Who is insecure? Who is authentic? Who is quietly dangerous? The question is no longer how to read them, but how you choose to act on that knowledge. Will you use it to protect, to lead to influence with discretion? Or will you fall into the trap of control for its own sake? The final truth is this: power does not belong to the one who sees through others, but to the one who knows how to use that vision responsibly. If you can master that balance, you do not simply read people, you shape the world. They believe they are shaping themselves.